This Late Night Linux Family podcast is made possible by our patrons. Go to latenightlinux.com/support for details of how you can join them. Support us on Patreon for access to ad-free episodes and early releases. That's latenightlinux.com/support. Hello and welcome to episode 343 of Late Night Linux, recorded on the 14th of July 2025. I'm Joe, and with me are Phelim.
Howdy.
Graham.
Good evening.
And Will.
Hello.
Anubis guards the gates against hordes of LLM bot crawlers. So this is Anubis, which has been around for quite a while. And you put this on your server, and anyone who visits your website is forced to do a bit of proof of work. I mean, the browser does it automatically. If you've got a fast computer, then it just takes less than a second. But the idea is that by having a bit of proof of work in front of a website, it stops the bots, specifically the AI crawling bots, which, as we know, have been taking down all sorts of websites and services generally on the internet. But there's a little bit of controversy about this. Some people are concerned that it smells a little bit too much like crypto bullshit because of the proof of work aspect. The FSF have called it malware, which is kind of a vote of confidence in it as far as I'm concerned. What do we think about this whole thing?
Shit situation to require something like this. Yeah, I don't know if they're doing something nefarious with the actual checksums. I doubt it, but yeah, I wish it didn't have to exist. But hey, the thoughts all the AI trawlers trying to save money on storage by just continually trawling the shite out of your webpage is just ridiculous.
It seems like we are in a mad race to burn as much electricity as we possibly can. As one of the people interviewed as part of the article says, that proof of work is fundamentally inflationary, wasteful bullshit. And that's true. If these data centers are already burning huge amounts of power to keep the AI stuff running, then asking each of the servers that they hit to generate even more work required is just going to push electricity usage through the roof eventually. If this were to become common practice in about 20 years, well, maybe not, in about 10 years, this would be impossibly expensive to even open a website, at which point it fails. So I don't think this is going to be around for long. It's an interesting idea, but it's just not practical.
I think that is ultimately my concern. I feel similar to Phelim in that I wish it didn't have to exist. I'm somewhat glad it exists right now as a stopgap, but yeah, that inflationary aspect of it means that you're right, Will. Like this cannot be the answer, surely. There has to be another answer. What that is, I don't know. Cloudflare have got their kind of voluntary pay scheme thing, which I'm somewhat skeptical about. But I do worry. Right now, you know, you click through to the Anubis website on this relatively fast computer of mine. It takes like a second and then it loads. But it's not going to be like that forever, is it?
It's depressing that this is what it's come to. I think if it helps, great. But the fact that we're even talking about it just seems like, what the fuck has happened?
Yeah, it's like I said on 2.5 Admins recently, the future is shit.
The thing is, we have more power at our fingertips as users than ever before. It's like this relentless march for new and shiny things, which distracts us from all the new things, the new potential things that we could actually do. I mean, our computers are so powerful compared to those that most of us grew up on. And yet we're still relentlessly chasing the new shiny thing rather than spending a little bit of getting philosophical and introspecting on what we can now do. Those of us who care rather than worrying about the latest website additions and escaping stuff. I don't know.
Wayback is a relatively new project, and it's quite interesting to me and quite exciting because the goal of this is to make older desktops that don't work with Wayland work with Wayland. I'm not 100% clear on how the technology of it all works, but it uses Wayland, but not at the application level, at the whole desktop level. Now, this has been around for a couple of weeks, but now it's actually being hosted on freedesktop.org, so it's actually getting taken pretty seriously.
So to remove any confusion, this is entirely unrelated to the right-wing Xorg spin-off that we talked about previously.
Did we talk about that? I think we did, yeah. So that Ex Libra is it could not be less related to that.
Good.
Yes, exactly. And in fact, I think that is potentially one of the more interesting aspects of this. It's kind of a reaction to that, I think. Because this is made by Ariadne Connell. And in a post called 2 Weeks of Wayback, Ariadne writes, recently a group of neo-fascist reactionaries announced a fork of the Xorg server, which, among other things, has introduced new security bugs, etc., etc. And then at the end of the post, Ariadne writes, unlike other projects, we are focused on building real solutions rather than fascism. And Liam at the Register wrote a piece about this called The Price of Software Freedom is Eternal Politics. And I think that Liam made some quite fundamental errors in his reading of the politics of free software and open source, where he says that free software is inherently left-wing and open source is inherently right-wing. Like, that's just not the case at all. Like, some of the real crazy far-right people are all about software freedom. So that bit of it isn't correct. But nevertheless, FOSS, let's say, which kind of covers both camps, has become increasingly political. It was always a political movement, but now we're starting to see like real splits between your, MAGA types and your goodies, shall we say.
Well, I think you've clearly taken sides.
Yes, I have. I have taken sides. Yes. There are the goodies and the baddies.
You're making me think here about whether free software has become more political. And I think there probably was this same polarity even 25 years ago, but like so many things, the discourse was more civil, and with more people now mistakenly allowed on the internet, it's become uncivilized and uncouth, and it's just descended into madness effectively. So maybe what's happened is the same thing that's happened everywhere with every single kind of public debate that happens online, and free software and open source is no different than that.
Well, yeah, that's about the size of it. And as with most other areas of life, you've got far-right grifters who don't actually really believe much of what they're saying, but they know that it's going to generate clicks and engagement and ultimately money.
Don't know who you could be talking about there.
Well, it's not just one person, is it?
No, it's at least three.
Yeah.
I think the hardest thing I have to deal with this is the fact that X, as in X386, Xorg, Xorg, whatever you want to call that collection of utilities, wasn't really much use by this point anyway. It is a security nightmare. It literally can't be secured by the way it allows other windows to see stuff going on. It was a great thing for back in its day when there was literally it. But it's long past it. And I don't see the desperate clinging to that whole infrastructure that's there. Oh, it works. It's like, yeah, okay, as long as you don't care about security and things like that, then fine. But, I think we need to move on.
But now we're in this weird position where, like, if you support Wayland, then that tells me about other politics stuff. Whereas if you cling to X11, then that tells me that you've got different politics. And that's just a very strange situation that we found ourselves in.
I think we shouldn't let those idiots who are trying to make it that type of way of doing things dictate what it means about those things. Some people genuinely have a reason that they have to use X. And I understand that there are people out there with hardware, with access methods that they have to use, whatever. But don't make it like that. Don't let the other arseholes in that thing is what I think we need to do. And we just need to say, I have to use this right now. I should be using this one. Oh, blah, blah, blah. It's not fast enough. Well, hopefully someday they'll work on that enough that it'll fucking be as fast. Like, get a grip. It's software. I think some of these people really need to actually have some real issues in their life because they clearly have too much time on their hands.
That's exactly the position I'm in. I want to use XFCE. My only option to use it right now is X11. And does that align me with the fucking arseholes?
So you're a Nazi is what you're saying. I see, Joe. I didn't know this about you.
Yeah, apparently I am. But I mean, that's why I really want Wayback to succeed.
But isn't that such a ridiculous state of affairs to be in? I'm really hoping this thing that does a whole lot of extra work in order to just not have us use this crappy software over here that is completely unneeded. It's like, could Ariadne not fix XFCE and then that can solve that issue?
The work needed to just fix, in inverted commas, XFCE is vast, down to the toolkit level, and it's just not worth it. The right way to fix it, as Ariadne is doing, is at the sort of layer beneath that so that it fixes it for everybody. And I don't think, from what I've been reading, that it's a huge amount of extra work, as it were. It's just going to be a compositor that accepts X11, Xorg descriptions on one end and emits Wayland things on the other end, and then everything should just work. I think it's a really smart solution, and it should fix it for everybody to then leverage Wayland and all of those applications that people use. For example, music scoring, the production of music scores uses software that is ancient, and that software is never going to get updated. Well, some of it anyway, especially in the free software world. That's never going to get updated. It's never going to be ported to work on anything newer than, I don't know, Tickle or something. So we do need, in order to keep those ancient pieces of software working that have worked perfectly for the last 25 years, 30 years, is this intermediate layer. And so it should be a really neat solution to a really tricky problem. I think it's a really clever idea, and hopefully just does away with this politics aspect of it, because most people won't even need to know that it's happening. In the same way that Proton has kind of leveled the playing field for games, I think that this will do the same for legacy applications.
Legacy applications, legacy desktops. Yeah, I just really hope that this is going to solve the problem. I think that XFCE is closer than we think to working with Wayland.
Any moment now, Joe. Any moment now.
Yeah, any moment now. Yeah.
It's expecting the facts to come through.
Yeah.
With the news.
I also like how Will took my jibe at XFCE to be a realistic thing of me not slowly sticking the knife in.
I'm conditioned by years of abuse.
You are a better person than I.
Well, anyway, fingers crossed for Wayback. It looks really, really promising to me. Okay, this episode is sponsored by Tailscale. Go to tailscale.com/LNL. Tailscale is the easiest way to connect devices and services to each other, wherever they are. Tailscale gives you secure, remote access to any resource anywhere in the world, whether that's databases, servers, Kubernetes, on-prem boxes, virtual private clouds, desktop PCs, 3D printers, or off-site backups in your friend's garage. Connect anything and everything you want, wherever it is, and get started in minutes. Tailscale's personal plan will always be free, and you get up to 100 devices and 3 users for free with no credit card required. So support the show and go to tailscale.com/LNL and try Tailscale out today. Or if you want to use Tailscale at an industrial scale, with more users and devices, or take advantage of features like MDM policies, auditing, network flow logging, and priority support, try it out at work using the code Linux25. You'll get 3 free months of any Tailscale paid plan, and you can find out why thousands of companies like Instacart, Hugging Face, and Duolingo have switched to Tailscale. That's code Linux25. Let's do some discoveries. Phelim, Smeg CLI.
This is clearly the most highbrow thing I've ever brought to the discoveries. But yeah, Red Dwarf, essentially, for anybody who doesn't know, it was a British comedy. We got it over here as well. It's what? An evolved cat, a useless lackey, a guy who's a hologram, and another fellow who's a robot. Yeah, I mean, I think that's roughly it, right? But this Smeg CLI allows you to get a quote from the film with essentially a GIFable thing that you can generate. But the cool thing is, if you run it actually in a CLI, runs by Rust, by the way, I just like to point that out. If you run it, you will actually get an image in the terminal, assuming your terminal is not like a chunky 1980s version, and it will dump out an image in there and give you a link where you can generate your own GIFs. Very cool.
Amazing.
Completely irrelevant, but yeah, it is amazing.
I knew as soon as I saw Smeg that it was going to be Red Dwarf.
I thought it's to do with cooking. Sorry, that's just a different class.
Fridge I can't afford.
Fridge that I got for free once, and then
oh, fuck you.
Managed to fuck it by trying to de-ice it too hard, and I was going bang, 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 suddenly heard shh, and I was like, oh,
shit.
You could have used Smeg CLI with that.
Yeah, should have done.
I wondered where it was getting all the content from, so I was just looking at the source there, and goes to a website called Smeg Drive, which is fantastic.
It's fantastic. Yes, it is.
Will Flagsmith.
If you are in the business of running a SaaS product, or in fact developing any kind of multi-user piece of software, feature flags are used to enable and disable features on a subset of your users. So you can do kind of A/B testing and try out new features before you roll it out to the greater user base. When I was at Influx, we used a piece of software called ConfigCat for this. It has a straightforward API and it has clients, or rather libraries, for all the major programming languages: Rust, Python, C, JavaScript, etc., etc. And this makes it really easy for a developer to put a straightforward if statement in their code that says, if this feature flag is on, then do this, and if this feature flag is off, then do that. And all of those feature flags are then managed from a web-based product. And so as long as that service is up and running, then you can dynamically adjust the feature set or the way that code works in production without having to deploy a new version every single time. Really, really valuable. ConfigCat is a business that has thrived on making this software. And Flagsmith is an open source self-hosted alternative that looks suspiciously similar and offers the almost exact same feature set. This is a really powerful self-hosted solution for feature flag toggling. You can create filters and targeting tags to deliver software to a specific group of users who are in your code base. And so this will allow you to test those new features before they roll out production. It's a really powerful, really good, really well integrated piece of software. It comes with a whole bunch of logs, a whole bunch of UI visualizations about what's deployed where. It's just a really nicely designed, really straightforward to use as an end user, straightforward to use, and also really easy to implement in your software. So yeah, if you're running a SaaS product and it happens to use Python in this case, I really recommend checking out Flagsmith. I'm sure everybody else knows about this. It's been around for years, but it was new to me and it looks really good.
It's pretty cool.
Graham, cheat sheets.
Yeah, this is something I bookmarked a while ago, maybe a year ago, and I realised just this week that I keep going back to it because it's so useful. Cheat sheets is actually just a collection of markdown documentation for lots of different things, command line tools usually, but also a few kind of APIs and some other things that have been collected, I think, mostly by somebody called Rico Cruz, who then publishes them via GitHub pages to devhints.io, I think. But I just look at this source material, the markdown files. And as the name implies, they're cheat sheets, which I've always found incredibly useful. It's why we started printing them on the inside covers of the magazines I was involved with. My memory's rubbish. Like in man files, I open them up and I go straight down to the bottom just to see if there's some examples of how to use a command. And cheat sheets are full of those kinds of bits of information, along with some of the most commonly used commands within Vim, for example. There's some variation. I mentioned Vim. Vim, the cheat sheet for Vim is very good and I use it. I don't use Emacs, but I just checked and it's very sparse for Emacs. So obviously there's some bias there. But they cover all kinds of things like pass or bash or curl. They're not too big. They're really quick to just scan to find what you need and then move on. And I've been using it a lot. And yeah, they're great.
There's got to be a couple of hundred at least here.
Yeah, so I think he started the project, and then I guess as it became more popular, lots of people have contributed their own cheat sheets and updated them. And it's got the whole publishing system there. So it's all, I'm fairly certain it's open source because I've read a blog that he wrote some time ago where this is one of his big open source projects. But I can't find the license at the moment.
What would I do with my cripplingly brutal PDF buying obsession from the likes of O'Reilly and Pact? I mean, what can I take money? Can I send it there? I need to have it on a PDF.
Yeah, well, you could probably run a Pandoc. I mean, maybe there's a Pandoc cheat sheet here with the command to generate PDF.
Well, I have discovered, thanks to Simon, who wrote in, Privacy or Privacy Redirect, which is an alternative to Privacy Please that we talked about recently. So this is a web extension that redirects Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Google Maps, Reddit, Google Search, and Google Translate requests to a privacy-friendly alternative front end for those sites like Nitter, Invidious, FreeTube, etc., etc. So apparently this is just a better version of what we talked about previously, or at least an alternative.
Yeah, it's got an awful lot more services that it can make use of for the various things. So that is actually quite cool.
Although looking at this GitHub repo, it's like 4 and 5 years since it's been updated.
And I think some of these are going to face the same issue, like the likes of Reddit, I think, absolutely destroying their API for anybody but somebody making money out of it is probably not going to work. But I guess these can be used as a seed for the other one. You could probably add them in somehow.
Yeah.
That being said, it is essentially a regex to swap one domain URL pattern with another, I suppose. So how much does that need to change?
Well, Jason wrote in to say, as an old TM who used to overclock his Celeron 300A to 450 megahertz back in the 90s, using a CPU ID program such as CPU-Z or CPU ID was a staple of everyday life. I recently came across a similar program on Mastodon that is free and open source called CPU-X, which not only gives a nice nostalgia hit, but provides a ton of useful information in real time on installed CPUs and motherboard and graphics card information. The program includes both graphical and TUI interfaces and is written in C++. And I installed this, it's just in the Ubuntu repo, and it looks very much like those old Windows ones. So if you missed that, this is the application for you. Yeah,
it's quite funny. I never realized that the core speed of my processor went up and down as much as it did. It literally jumps from 550 up to 4.7 gigahertz back and forth. So that's bizarre. Didn't realize it did it that much.
Yeah, modern CPUs with like sleep states and stuff like that, they jump all over the place.
Yeah, I think just most of the time I'm using a monitoring tool that at most is 10, or at least is 10 seconds, and then possibly even like higher, because it's doing it over a long historical sort of time period. So I don't really watch things at this small a scale, I guess. It's quite cool though.
Okay, this episode is sponsored by Entroware. Go to entroware.com. Entroware sells laptops, desktops, and servers with Ubuntu pre-installed. Most parts are configurable, so you can pick the CPU, RAM, and storage that's right for you. If you can't find exactly what you're looking for, then do contact them and they'll work with you on a bespoke solution that's perfect for your needs. They ship to the UK, Republic of Ireland, France, Germany, Italy, and Spain. And if you do buy one of their machines, there's a little drop-down at checkout where you can select Late Night Linux so they'll know that we sent you. So go to entroware.com for all your Linux computing needs. Let me give you a quick update on my KDE experiment then. So in the end, I decided to just go for KDE Neon. And I did this on my Framework 13, which is AMD with integrated, well, it's like an AMD APU, I think. So anyway, I've had no problems with that whatsoever with Wayland. And I haven't got it quite there yet to what I want. You know, I want it to be exactly like XFCE, but I'm getting close with it, I think. You know, I turned off the floating panel, turned off the animations, turned off the annoying noises every time I was doing the volume. Control M in Dolphin, that took me longer than it should have to find, to get a proper menu bar instead of some bullshit hamburger menu thing.
But you could do it.
Yeah, and I had to add icons and text task manager to the panel because I need to know. I can't just have a picture of stuff. I need to have it saying, you know, Firefox or Audacity or whatever.
Oh, dear God.
I've got some questions for you.
Uh-oh.
I want a Places plugin. I don't know if you've ever seen this in XFCE.
Yeah.
XFCE Places plugin, I think it's called. You click on it and it kind of pops up with places, you know, directories that you set, like some default ones, but you can change the ones, you know, like home and trash, desktop, that sort of thing. And I've set a few shortcuts there and I can just go straight to them.
So that's folder view, which is a widget that you add.
Right.
And folder view, you can, by default, I think it does the desktop, or it could do the downloads folder, but you can change the location and you can change how it behaves and whether it includes a list, and you can save the settings for the folder view, whether you want it sorted by name, for example. I use it for downloads sorted by date. So I get the most recent downloads at the top. But that should be able to do it. You can also do it as a list or as an icon view if you want to, but it's the folder view widget. It's super flexible, which isn't always immediately obvious when you add it.
Right. Because what you're describing sounds a bit like the Mac Finder thing, which I don't want. But it's kind of related to that. It kind of pops up like on a Mac. But okay, it sounds like that's going to be pretty configurable.
It can work just like the Mac, but you can change it in many, many other ways that you can't. You can't change the Mac one at all.
Right, okay. Why did I have to install an Arial font to make Google Docs look right? Like, the font was just wrong. And I was like, what the hell? And so then I found a font, installed it, and then it suddenly looked fine. Except that the cursor kind of lags behind where it should be now in Google Docs. And so, like, the more you type, the worse it gets. Like, it's slightly left of where it should be. And, like, if you do the highlighting of text, you know, like the changing the background color of text, it doesn't do the whole sentence. The last couple of letters are not properly highlighted. It looks fine on other machines. So, I don't know. Did I just install the wrong font, maybe? Is this a Wayland thing? Is it a KDE thing? I don't know.
I have no idea. I've never installed Arial as a font yet. Google Docs appears to work for me.
I know it works, but just the font looks wrong. Like all of my other machines, the font looks the same, except it was just a different font, and I just couldn't have that. It was just triggering me. And so I've installed some Google Fonts, Arial, whatever, and it looked fine, but it's just giving me this weird bug. So I don't know where that bug is. Is it in Google Docs? Is it in Wayland? Is it in KDE? I don't know. Is just the font weird?
Will that not be in the browser, though, if it's a web font?
Maybe. But the second that I installed it in KDE, in the font manager, it just all changed to the right font in Firefox.
Sounds like a bug, if anything.
Yeah, I wonder if it's an AMD specific thing. I don't know. I'm going to have to try and do some experiments, maybe get a different font or something. I don't know.
I have a AMD graphics card. I think I set my font manually, mind you, in the browser because I didn't want them to track me by my font choices. So I have Noto Sans size 12 set as my default.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Noto Sans was, and it looks wrong. It's just not the right font.
Oh, I see. I'm not as ingrained into that proprietary software like you are, so I was happy.
I tell you, one of the best things about using it so far was going into the touchpad settings and swapping 2 and 3 finger click with a checkbox. No editing config files, like having to reboot. It was this revelation to me that you can actually just have options for things.
Yes, you see, it's almost like it's your computer and you should do it at what you wish.
Yeah. All right, well, it sounds like I've got more work to do on this, and I'm glad I've had some expert advice here from you two.
I think you need to send us some screenshots of how you're setting up as well. I think everybody would be dying to see what it looks like. Stick them on Mastodon or something.
Once I've got it right, I will. And it's just going to look so boring. It just looks like Windows 7.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, we all have to slag you at something, and we definitely will. But
the other thing is there's a lot of updates in it with Neon. Basically, every day there's updates for things, which has me worried. There's too many updates. Things are going to break.
Well, you don't know this, but I did a massive set of updates just before this show was recorded. So assuming my recordings have worked, there's no issue with that at all.
Right. Well, so far so good. But I must say that I've got on my stack of laptops the framework and my XPS 13. That's obviously running Ubuntu. And I do find myself reaching for that XPS much more because it's a comfortable pair of slippers. But I need to break out of that habit.
You do. The foam is falling out. The cardboard's rotted inside. You've probably stepped on dog shit in them. So, you know.
Ironically, my slippers are falling apart in real life. And I need to swap to the new ones that I bought, which I haven't because I don't want to because they're not my comfortable slippers. So there you go.
But they will become your comfortable slippers.
Yes. And maybe Plasma will become that for me. We'll see. Right, well, we better get out of here then. We'll be back next week when it'll probably be news and stuff, but it is the summer, so who knows. But until then, I've been Joe.
I've been Phelan.
I've been Graham.
And I've been Will.
See you later.